Well, hello everybody, and welcome to episode number 34 of Cardboard Time. This is Arwen here with you as always, and today's episode's going to be a little bit on the shorter side up front. Things have been very busy with me, but Roberto Lopez of Shear Boardom will join me in the second half of today's episode as well. So plenty of content to look forward to, just not towards the front of the podcast. Today's beer of the day is the Great Lakes Dortmunder Gold from Great Lakes Brewing in Cleveland, Ohio, and it is approaching Valentine's Day. We did have our Valentine's Day dinner, Allie and I, and we went to White Oaks, a little steakhouse up in Westlake, and quite good, but not a huge amount of beers. You have your standard Bud Light, etc. And the Dortmunder is really kind of my go-to local if the restaurant is not going to necessarily have a lot of craft beer. I usually go towards the Dortmunder because usually they will have that. This did have a very nice malty taste. It's got a bit of a hoppy flavor to it. It's, again, kind of a solid go-to lager. I gave it a 3.75, and it really stays right about there. Again, solid go-to. Not necessarily a scrimshaw, but it is pretty good. And let's check that Shelf of Shame, and today's Shelf of Shame count is at 150. That is up 1. 5 new additions to the Shelf of Shame this week. We have Bitoku. I was finally able to get my hands on that. If you remember my episode after PAX U, I was talking about it, and I decided to leave Bitoku at PAX and decided not to purchase it, wait until I got back home to Eric's. Figured it would be a little bit cheaper, and I didn't necessarily need to be taking 13 pounds in one game with me. So it is a super heavy game, not only on the gameplay side, but also on the direct weight side. It is a very, very heavy game to pick up. I picked up Dollars to Donuts. I will be talking about that today. Super Skill Pinball Ramp It Up, the small box rollin' right. Played the first table, and it's giving me exactly what I already love with the series. I can't wait to play the other 3 within the next couple of weeks. I played the beginner table, and looking forward to seeing what else is in that box. And Origins First Builders, if you are on my Instagram, you can get some more information on what I thought on that. Before I do a full rundown, I am going to be modifying the game because it does have some severe color vision issues. Again, I already pointed that out on my Instagram, so if you want some more thoughts of what I didn't like with it, what I had issues with, you can go there at cardboard_time and check out what I had to say. I love the gameplay overall, but it was definitely a little bit of a bummer to see some of the issues that game suffers from. And Vivid Memories, I picked up from Matt and Lori on Instagram, our great listeners. Finally got to meet them in person at Eric's store, Got a Lot of Games. I do have some opinions on this one, but I am waiting on Justin to hop on to talk about this in earnest. Before I kind of divulge what my thoughts are on this game. And as far as what I played out of those 5, basically everything but Bitoku. And I did get my Project L Kickstarter in. That was a very welcome addition to the collection. I did play that on Tabletop Simulator way back with Phil, and I believe that I may have already talked about it on the show. It is a wonderful, wonderful spatial puzzle kind of engine builder, and I was really happy to see that show up at my doorstep, but that's not really a member of the Shelf of Shame because I've already played it. So that's like the best kind of delivery is one that's not going to hit the Shelf of Shame count. So on to what I've been playing. I did want to talk about Dollars to Donuts from 2021. It plays from 1 to 4 players in 30 to 45 minutes, designed by Molly Johnson, Robert Melvin, and Sean Stankiewicz. The artist is Dylan Mangini and published by Crafty Games. And the description from Board Game Geek is donuts must be made whole. That's the spirit driving your actions in dollars to donuts, mostly because the customers in your donut shop will not want to purchase half donuts that will undoubtedly be stale on their open ends. On a turn, you can purchase 1x4 donut tiles that depict half donuts along its edges from the available 6 tiles for a cost of $0 to $5. You then add this tile to your shop with some of the tile hanging off the edge of the board if you wish, ideally lining up with the half donuts on that tile with those already on your board. If you make a matching donut, for example, putting 2 sprinkle halves together, then you take a sprinkle scoring token. If you make a non-matching donut, for example, plain half combined with a chocolate half, then you draw a dollar tile from the supply bag. To end your turn, you can place a dollar tile on your shop board to complete a donut and score, or fill a space with donut holes, which also might score. In addition, you can serve a customer in line by offering them scoring tokens that match their desired donuts, which will earn you more points than the tokens on their own. When one player has filled every space in their shop or the donut tiles run out, the game ends with you scoring for satisfied customers, neighborhoods served, donuts still on hand, and donut hole pairs in the shop, while losing points for empty spaces in your shop. The player with the highest score clearly has the most popular shop in town and is the winner. So like I said in the description, this game really is about placing these 1x4 tiles on a grid and trying to match up donut halves to other donut halves. Sometimes you're going to want to match them up exactly, and then other times you're going to want to make mismatched halves so that you can draw these tiles out of the bag. Depending on what you match up, you get to draw more tiles out of the bag. So if you have a mismatch that's of a higher quality, so like you have a really high quality donut that's matched up with a lower quality donut, you get the tile pull of the higher quality donut. So basically you get to pull more of these little dollar tiles, which I found interesting. The tiles on the back all had dollar signs on them. They're all the same thing. They act as your currency to purchase these tiles to get a little bit deeper into the market before your opponent does. Or you can use the other side of them, which again had these halves of donuts or these donut holes that filled in these little 1x1 spaces. So usually you're not going to match up everything perfectly. This gives you an opportunity to kind of fill some of those voids that show up on your board. So I found that really, really cool and really interesting. To back up a little bit, I did get this on sale from Got a Lot of Games. I believe it was $25. And Allie had her eye on it the past couple of times we were up at the shop. This was kind of a no-brainer for me to pick up at this point. The mechanisms looked like they were going to be pretty cool, so I figured why not give it a try at that price. This was very, very easy to teach. I went through the rule book. Everything was very straightforward, figured that out very quickly. Simple turn structure, no edge cases to deal with, so that made a very, very easy teach. Super cute artwork. I loved all the little details. The little shop scene that was included on the lid was very nice. And also very nice was to see the diversity on the customer cards. All the customer cards had different people on them. I didn't see any sort of repeats. And they all had these little different sayings that were fun to read, and they were very cute. So I really enjoyed that. And again, very diverse as well. And a big thing for me that I've kind of been thinking about a lot lately is zero color vision issues. Everything was represented very clearly. Everything was either a color that was very easily distinguishable. Your vanilla, plain, chocolate, sprinkles, your jelly filled, all had very unique designs or colors that were extremely easy to distinguish between. So I give them a lot of kudos for that. And then finally, Area Majority was very simply taught using this game. And again, we're starting to see these more family weight games with a little bit more complex mechanism that you can throw in there and teach to your friends and family. I think that's great. I'm looking forward to seeing more of this in the future, and I give them credit to include that in this game. So this was another great lighter weight tile placement game with enough puzzle to really make it fun for hobbyists. And, someday I'll get enough of these games with tile placement, but I'm not exactly sure I'd pay the full MSRP of $50 for this one. Again, I didn't really have anything negative to say about it, but also it wasn't like a super complex heavy duty game that I really felt was a $50 game. For the price I got it for, and if you can find it on sale, you're looking for a good, solid, accessible tile placement game, this one might be a good pickup for you, especially if the theme might hit for your friends or family. I absolutely consider this worth the $25 price to admission. That $25 to $35 range, I would have no problem paying. Upwards of that, I might, consider holding off on it. But this was really good. This was a great game. Really enjoyed Dollars to Donuts. And coming up, we have an interview with Roberto Lopez from Shear Boardom. Stay tuned. And welcome back. On today's interview segment, we have Roberto Lopez, who runs Shear Boardom, a platform that covers games through Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. Roberto is also a hairstylist, which is incorporated into his channel's theming. Roberto, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me. I do want to say Shear Boardom, horrible for SEO, just because of how it's spelled.
I love it. I think it's a great name. I mean, yes, horrible for SEO, but it is memorable.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for having me on. This is fun.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And thank you for coming on. We actually met at PAX. We wound up demoing Monsters and Meeples, or Meeples and Monsters. I can't necessarily remember the order that goes in at the AEG booth, and that was definitely a fun time.
It was a blast. It's M&Ms. The meeples look like M&Ms. It could just be M&M. It's good.
Yeah, exactly. Just M&M. They should just rename the game, make everything edible. It'd be fantastic. I'd play it.
I'd buy that in a heartbeat.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You pull out peanut-sized M&Ms out the bag and just, instead of placing them, you just eat them. Whatever. You're good.
Yeah. Yeah. Different colors. You have your different actions, different colors, and then once you're done with them, instead of putting them back in the bag, if you want the actions, then you have to put them back in the bag. But if you don't want the actions, then you eat them. That's your culling mechanism. I think that's a good idea.
We're onto something.
See, we're already connecting here. This is good.
Yes.
So tell the audience a little bit about how you got into the board gaming hobby.
This is always a fun question. Growing up, gaming was a staple in my household. I mean, I'm Latino, so it was dominoes or brisca, and then we got into like Phase 10 or some type of rummy game, a lot of card games. We spent a lot of Sundays playing games as a family. But as far as a hobby gaming, it was probably 2000 late. No, it was 2012, around there. We had a client come in and we just connected and we hung out. We would play video games, and the first time I went to his house, he introduced me to Carcassonne. And I thought, oh, wow, this is freaking cool. So from there, I don't remember the rest of that path, but it was like Carcassonne, Machikoro, Catan, or Carcassonne, Catan, Machikoro with Ticket to Ride in there somewhere. Like, it was those games that really first introduced me to the board game hobby. Then from there, it was others like Betrayal and so on and so forth. And now here I am. Love the board games.
Well, I think you would definitely have to be in the industry. There's a ton of love throughout the industry. I think everybody here loves what they do, and those sound like the kind of gateway games that got a lot of people in. It's kind of the pathway.
Yeah, now I use those to introduce new people into the game, but nowadays I enjoy games with all those like just throw all those games in a blender, and then I'll play, what comes out is Anachrony or Dwellings of Eldervale or something of the sorts, with all those different mechanisms versus just a tile placement or resource management strictly worker placement. So give me all of it. All the things.
Give me everything in a giant bowl, and I will eat it all.
Yes.
We cannot see what's behind you on the podcast, but I can see you have the Anachrony Infinity box, and I'm very jealous because I haven't even gotten to play the game yet.
It's brilliant. I love playing that game. It's a game that I think it plays well at 2 players because there is a 2-player sided board, but it's super crunchy. It's super tight at 2 players. I just taught it to a group of us earlier in October, which is the last time it was out because so little time, so many games to play. But Anachrony definitely gets a lot of tabletop time comparatively to other games that we own. So that'll come out maybe 3 or 4 times a year because you have to be in the mood for it to play it. It's a heavier game and just remembering all the rules, and it's just this big table setup. But once you set it up and play the game, it's a nice worker placement, resource management style game.
Well, I definitely need to check it out at some point. I've got to find somebody local, possibly, that has it. A little bit more local to me than what you are. I believe you are in Boston, is that correct?
Yeah, we're in central Massachusetts, about 40 minutes from Boston. But if you come to PAX East, which is in Boston, we could play it together. The PAX library, it'll be there.
Might have to consider that.
Yeah.
I definitely had a great time at PAX U. This was my first time. And we'll get into PAX U in a little bit, but I do want to know how you started your journey into board gaming coverage.
That is a fun thing that I think a lot of people that I started following on Instagram and whatnot started our journeys right around the same time, which was the stay-at-home order in March. So being a hairstylist, being behind the chair, I had all that, the one-on-one connection. I was out of the house, I was standing, all the things that comes with being a hairstylist. And then it was gone, like Thanos, spoiler alert. I mean, if you haven't seen Infinity War by now, then that's on you.
Yeah, exactly. It's open game at this point.
So just like that, it was gone. I was at home. I had nothing to do. I was playing too much Call of Duty and drinking too much White Claw until one day my fiance and I decided to play Villainous because we're Disney freaks in this household. And actually, a little bit before that, I'm on a lot of Disney Vacation Club forums, and that game Villainous is on there all the time. And I'm like, yeah, I love this game. Does anyone know how to play it? I can show you how to play it. So it kind of stemmed from there. I taught people how to play Villainous, or I did a Facebook live on how to do Villainous, linked it to that Facebook page, and then it was once a week we did other games on Facebook Live. So I mean, I pushed for more, but she was still doing telehealth, like she was still working while I was not. So for her it was a little bit much, but we ended up playing Wingspan and some other games. Pandemic. We played Pandemic on Facebook Live, and then from there I kind of got into a little bit of a TikTok thing, and then from there was Instagram. So finally, I thought, you know what? I'm going to be, because at this point in time, I was going to be president of my Rotary Club in Groton Pepperell. So I had to get used to some type of public speaking. I decided I'm really good at the one-on-one conversations, or at least I think I'm really good at these one-on-one conversations anyway. Let me reach out to some people who I follow, see if they want to do an interview on Instagram Live. And it kind of stemmed from there. So I was doing them about once a week, once every other week. And then I got on YouTube when I reached out to Jamie Stegmeyer, and he was my first official YouTube video, which is now super cringy to watch because I had all these questions for him, and I was like, okay, so tell me about this. He would have this elaborate, fantastic response. There was no feedback from me. It was end. Okay, next question. Elaborate, awesome, like phenomenal response. No follow-up to that. Like, stop. Next question. It's super cringy to watch. So please do not go back to see that video.
Now I gotta go see it.
Yeah. But it just grew from there, and I've been loving the Instagram community. meeting new people for the first time at PAX Unplugged, or meeting or reaching out to publishers and other content creators to just have a chat, because a lot of focus is on games, but not too much focus I haven't seen is on the person who made the game or the person that's creating the content for the game, because there's a lot of time involved with that too.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a very interesting point with that, because I think we have very similar goals with our channels in telling a wide range of stories from people in the industry. So you have people that are, content creators. You have people that are designers. You have people that are publishers. You have people that do media. All sorts of different jobs and roles within the industry that make things run that people don't necessarily know about. A lot of people seem to kind of like stop at the designer, and that's what they want, and they don't get to see all the other sides of the stories. I would ask, because you're a hairstylist, does that give you a kind of like a one-up where you have a lot of interactions with the public, you talk a lot between yourself and person in the chair, like you have to fill that time? Has that developed your skill set somewhat?
Yes. I've been behind the chair for a long time. I graduated with my licensure in Massachusetts in 2005 from high school, and I've pretty much been doing it ever since. I stopped a couple years in between there, but I've been where I'm at now it'll be 12 years in May. So having people day in and day out, just talking. And granted, what's fun about seeing different people, for example, my first client, I'll tell them a joke. If it bombs, I can restructure the joke for my next client, or the story, or whatever. I mean, my coworkers are absolutely done with me by the end of the day. Like, oh my God, not again. Roberto, you need to just knock it off. I get the looks. But it absolutely helps with just having a conversation.
Yeah, this one bombed for the third time today. We don't need to hear it for a fourth. Please,
yes,
no.
Exactly. Yes.
So you mentioned being Latino, and one of the things that I've kind of tried to focus myself on a little bit more is the diversity within the industry and trying to bring a little bit more attention. When it comes to introducing new people to the hobby, I think that's one area that is kind of growing and trying to be a little bit more attractive to people that don't normally get to see the hobby through just the typical, I'm going to run into a game store means. So do you feel like that's one of the things that you can kind of contribute through your YouTube channels, Instagram, everything that you do? Do you feel like that's something that's something that you can specialize in, and B, that's extremely important to introducing new people to the hobby?
Yeah, I try to I do bite my tongue when I'm in Target and I see someone at the board game section, because I'm always perusing the board game section. People are looking at Monopoly. I'm like, oh, I just want to go over there and tell you about Parks, because it's so much better than playing Monopoly. But for the other piece of that, I started my videos and I say mi gente, which is my people, right? Just making sure everyone can come hang out with me, because I feel like everyone out there who's watching are going to be my people. Like, why would you come see me on this YouTube channel? Because I may represent something that you want to see or someone that you want to see. So I say mi gente as saying, hey, I'm inclusive. Let's do this. You're my people. So I hope that with what I do and what I say on my show or my YouTube channel, I can bring all sorts of people in, because representation matters. Being within this space, because it hasn't been a long time that I've been in this space. I've already seen it grow a ton. I mean, there's always room for improvement. And actually, I was having dinner with Kavre, the guys from Kavre, on Sunday night after PAX U, and we talked about just that. Was like the amount of people at PAX Unplugged, how people felt great being their true selves when they were there, and I thought that was awesome. I thought that was perfect.
And I know from my perspective, coming from the LGBTQ side of things, I'm seeing that as well. I was a convention attendee all the way back to 2016. So, I know the old days, and 2016 does not sound like the old days, but considering that was like 5 years ago. it wasn't as much of a thing and it wasn't focused on. And I feel like there was kind of a disservice being done to multiple groups by not trying to include everybody and trying to bring them into the hobby. And that's one of the things I'm really excited to see is the growth that we're having in the industry.
Awesome. Yeah, to your point again, it just, I haven't been to a convention like that. So seeing people come together and everyone just have a positive time from my perspective. I didn't see anyone throwing any tantrums or yelling at anyone. The enforcers were great. The PAX people were wonderful. I mean, we shared a table together. That was fantastic, and here we are now. So I'm very happy that progress is being made.
Now, to switch things up a little bit, you're also a hairstylist, which we mentioned, and it does reflect in your channel's theming. What made you decide to kind of marry the two together?
I was back to early on in the stay-at-home order. I had a couple of Rotarians. I got on a call, and at that point in time, what was I doing? I was trying to do a fundraiser to get internet for families who needed internet because the kids were at home. Some families may not be able to afford some internet, so we were trying to raise some money, and I said, hey, let's have this meeting, and I thought it was going to be about that, but they're like, no, we love what you've been doing on Facebook. You need to come up with something as far as branding, and right there, I thought Shear Boardom, because it's a play on both words. Again, horrible for SEO. But it's I just love the play on words, and I like talking or all these dad jokes that I absolutely love to put out in puns, put out there, so it works well with my silliness.
And I think anytime that you can marry anything that you really love together, combine those two passions is really, really cool and a very unique opportunity as well.
So it's been kind of a cool journey because now that I'm at work or back at work, I'm like, hey, all I do is pretty much talk board games at work now. And for new people, I'm like, oh my God, do you like board games? And then there's been a couple that I talked to who say yes. And then I said, you should probably follow me on Instagram and subscribe to my YouTube channel because you got to plug yourself in there from time to time. And when I say Shear Boredom, they say, oh my gosh, that's really cool. It's a fun play on words.
I absolutely love it. And the first time that I saw it, I'm like, oh my God, this is so perfect. It's amazing. And you got to throw yourself out there too. I mean, if somebody doesn't want to go and see what you're doing, that's fine. But at least, let people know, because every once in a while they're going to see something that they really love and it's going to take them down a path that they're really going to enjoy too. So my hair, it's been a major problem during my transition. I'm just going to throw this out there. I know I'm asking for free advice, but I'm going to do it anyways. It's an absolute hot mess about a day or so after I wash it. So I wash it, condition it, and then the next day it's an absolute disaster. Do you have any tips for me?
Yeah, I wanted to use saying the free advice. This is why I do this too. I was just on a call with somebody else, and I'm going to be using their advice within my own universe. So I'm happy to pass the buck along, if you will. But yes.
I appreciate it.
Okay, how often do you wash your hair?
So I'm usually in the about 4-day club. I try to keep it to like 4 days before I wash it again.
That's perfect, actually. You're doing good stuff there. Okay, so how many times do you shampoo your hair when you shampoo it?
Always.
No,
I just do it. Oh, how many times within a shampooing?
Yes.
Just once. One shampoo, one condition.
Okay. So having lived in hair, it's not dirty. It's just, it's lived in. So it's ready to be cleaned. What I tell my clients is the first shampoo is for the day and the second one is for the deep clean. Because I do it as well. We put shampoo in our hair or in our hands. We emulsify a little bit, maybe, but we always put it at our temples, right? And we scrub, bring it back. But there are only so many clean molecules to get the dirty molecules. So once you start bringing the clean molecules back, there's no more clean molecules to get the dirty molecules, which is what you're more than likely having a problem with is the crown, because the crown tends to not get as clean as your temples do. So I've been telling people or my clients, do a second shampoo, do a third shampoo. Like don't be afraid to use the shampoo until your head just is full of suds. That's when you know your hair is nice and clean. So that'll get rid of all residue. That'll get rid of everything in your hair.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. So going from there, depending on your hair texture or hair type, you got to look for those buzzwords on a bottle of shampoo and conditioner, whether it's moisturizing. Moisturizing is going to be heavy. So if you have fine hair or medium hair, that might not be for you. So you want to find something with volumizing or maybe something right in between there. Because for when it says fine or plumping or any of the sorts, it's going to be a lighter molecule that's in your hair. So it's not going to drag your hair down or anything of the sorts. So hydrating, smoothing, it's going to be a heavier consistency, and it's going to kind of bring everything down because of the weight that's within those products.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
See, these are all like scientific things that I had no idea. Like, I love the science behind things, and I had no idea that there was that much science behind shampoo. I just figured, throw it in your hair, like, mess it around a little bit, and you're good. That's so amazing.
It's not something I thought about. Even I did an advanced education class off the chemistry of what we put into hairsprays, conditioner, shampoo, like all the products, and that was eye-opening as well. And that was maybe 3 years ago. So now I have that in the back of my mind at all times for conversations just like this. I mean, there's buzzwords like alcohol. Not all alcohol is bad for your hair. Silicones and phosphates and all this stuff, not all of them are bad for your hair. But what I do recommend is don't buy anything from CVS or your local drugstore, because that's a whole gray market is what it's called. It's like off the back of the truck. It could be expired. So go into your salon or barbershop if they have product. Just get some professional grade product. The other thing that I recommend too is a mask. So there's even with masks, there's different kinds of masks. I almost strictly work with Kevin Murphy products. I love Kevin Murphy. The product line is out of Australia. So they have an angel mask. They have a hydrate me mask or hydrating mask. And there's another mask called Young Again. And they go into hydration in that order. So the angel is going to be a lighter hydrating, and then you're going to go into the middle of the road hydration. And hydration is inside of your hair versus, oh my gosh, and now it's going to completely, anyway, I will get back to that word. So you have hydration versus moisture. Moisture is on the outside, hydration's on the inside of the hair.
Okay.
Whereas the Young Again is full on, that's the Cadillac. You're going to have the softest hair imaginable if you use the Young Again mask. So I recommend using a mask once a week. You shampoo your hair twice, 3 times, 4 times, whatever it is. Then you condition, you leave that in your hair about 5-10 minutes. And from that point, that's when you assess everything after that as far as your hair condition goes. Because it should, once you switch that up, your hair should be in a better state. If it's not, you go into how you towel dry your hair. Because if you towel dry your hair rough, then you're going to blow open your cuticle, and we don't want that. So you want to really blot everything. I tell my clients that your cuticle is kind of like shingles on a roof. So you really need to make sure that everything is a downward motion, because once you have an upwards motion, think of wind in a shingle. If wind comes under the shingle, it's going to lift it up. And then all that stuff is going to blow open, and you're going to get frizz and all this stuff. So you got to make sure that you have a downward motion with anything with your hair. And then you get into other products as far as if you want it curly or straight, or you're blow drying it. I strictly use conditioner because I have super curly hair. So I have a Young Again conditioner, and I put that in my hair. I towel blot my hair, and then I use a conditioner to form my curls, and then I go. And that's it for me personally.
I had absolutely no idea that there was this much to it. That's amazing advice. I'm going to have to listen back to this a couple of times and like absorb everything. That's so crazy. And these are the things that they don't teach us.
Why would they teach you that? Which is my first thing when I first started doing all this. Like, I don't know anything about hair. My first experience in high school, I was a very young freshman. I ended up bringing Spider-Man action figures into my shop, and I got made fun of. I never did that again. But in the barbershops beforehand that I would visit with my dad, they didn't. It was just you go in, number 2 on the sides, and that's it. And going into the salons after the fact, you have a good stylist if they teach you or they educate you while you're in your chair. So I aim and I strive to do just that. If you leave my chair with learning something about your hair, I've done my job. Not only just cutting, but of course with educating and you moving forward with the styling and stuff.
Well, and I think it helps you kind of preserve it, when you're not in the stylist's chair, so that when you come back, A, it's probably going to be easier to work with, right?
Yes.
And then B, that person's walking around telling their friends, oh, Roberto's my stylist. He did such a good job. Look at this. And, you've got a good example. So I think that's definitely a very good approach to approaching your job, is making sure that your customers are well taken care of and they are a very good representative of your work.
Absolutely, because it takes... I think there's some demographic out there that shows someone will talk about a bad experience more so than a good experience.
Yeah, it's like 9 good experiences equivalent to like 1 bad experience or something like that. It takes like 9 good experiences to kind of wipe out that bad experience. Yeah. So we met at PAX U. I know that you've been to a couple of conventions before that. I think I was watching your videos and you had mentioned PAX East specifically. How does it feel to be back at conventions and meeting with people and seeing people again?
It felt great. I mean, the Unplugged in particular, this will always have a special place in my heart, because PAX East, I was nowhere in the capacity that I was today. Like I went down as a content creator with knowing a lot of people who were gonna go down, and in PAX East in 2020, I just went to check it out. I was just kind of getting into more of hobby games, and we picked up some games when we were there on that Thursday. I actually met up again this year with a designer of a board game, and I said, hey, I met you in PAX East in 2020, and what happened was he went to Kickstarter and he fulfilled his game, and I was able to have an interview with him that during PAX Unplugged, and that was fantastic. But this PAX Unplugged experience just absolutely blew me out of the water. It felt like a reunion. I was happy it happened. I'm sad that it's over. I've been thinking about it since I've been home, and I'm excited for the next one, because knowing and talking to people for almost 2 years, we've developed these relationships, and it was easy to go down and meet new people, because we all have that same the same common interests, because we're there for board games or D&D or whatever it is. So it was great to go down and break bread with people who I've been talking to for a while and meet new people.
And it's kind of insane how the industry, and I keep saying this, but the industry is so small. It's so big, yet it's so small at the same time, because you get to know these people. My one example that I use all the time is Tim Vernig from Thunderworks. I met him at Origins and circled back around with him at PAX U, and he's like, oh my God, Arwen, you're here. And I'm like, yeah, what, you came back to see me? I'm like, yeah, of course, you're here. I, of course, would come back to see you, Tim. So we met with him, and we had a really nice chat at Origins, and then, we obviously had a really nice chat at PAX U, but these are people that I have looked up to my entire board gaming career, and now it's like I'm talking with them, I'm hanging out with them, I'm at the table with them, and it's such a cool feeling. And I just want to share that. I want to share the stories. I want to share those feelings with people. And I think you're very much the same way in your content as well.
Thank you. I have to wholeheartedly agree with you there. Meeting just I can't wait to go back to have that same story that you just said. Oh, I met you last year, or after this whole PAX Unplugged, I've been reaching out to some other publishers, and I want to have some interviews with them for them to say, oh man, how are you doing? It's been a year since I've talked with you. What's going on? And like me, I feel like I don't deserve the praise. which is something that I may have to get over at some point. Because what we do is a lot of work. So for someone to say, hey, I love the podcast, I love what you're doing, for me it's hard to take that compliment, because I think I'm just having a conversation with someone.
Yeah, you're just doing what you love.
Yeah, that's it.
I think the other thing with conventions I did want to bring up, and Mick and Starla from Our Family Plays Games actually mentioned that on their show, that I had said this on my Twitter feed, but it's really about the people. You can't go and have those in-person experiences over the internet. I mean, you can do what we're doing now, which is an audio conversation or a video conversation in this case between us. And that's one thing, but to meet somebody in person and to sit down at the table with them and just to have that conversation without a screen in front of you is so much different. And I think that's what makes conventions so magical and what makes it so good to finally be back.
I have to agree with that. When we met up with some people, I almost felt like I had to put my phone in front of my face to almost have it be justified. You're in front of me and I can touch you, but I'm not sure if this is real, so let me just put my phone up and put my camera on. I'm gonna talk to you through my phone, because this is where right now it just feels a little more comfortable like this. Okay, we're good. Let's put the phones away.
Yeah, you start your video chat, I'll start mine, and then once we get through a little bit of that, then we can put everything back away. So what were some of the games that stood out to you in 2021? I've got a list that I had put out at the end of 2021 for me, but I'd like to hear what really stood out to you this year.
Oh my gosh, it's a good question. Praga is my game of the year. Caput Regni. Love Vladimir Suchy.
So good.
Pulsar and Underwater Cities and Praga, they're so good. And I feel like with playing those three, if you play them in that order, you feel him become a better designer. You just feel it in the design. Like, okay, it's a much more mature design. It's much more intricate going from Underwater Cities to Praga. If you go to Pulsar to Praga, it's like, whoa, this is way advanced. But luckily we have that Underwater Cities as a medium. So that was my game of the year. Too Many Bones. I finally played Too Many Bones. That rocked my socks off. That game is fantastic. I went on Friday and I'm kicking myself for not getting Undertow. Kate said, my fiance said, let's get it all. I said, let's just wait, because I have access to the Pledge Manager. And I just ended up ordering it through the Pledge Manager, because once Sunday came around, they were sold out of a lot of things that I should have purchased on Friday, which I ended up getting after the fact.
Jamie got the last copy of it. I'm sorry. I was there.
That's okay. I forgive Jamie. But we have, again, so many games. There's not enough time to play a full out. If I wanted to do a big baddie Too Many Bones, it's hours on hours on hours. But when we first got Too Many Bones earlier in the year, I played it with my son, and that was all we did the entire weekend. It was 1 a.m. Let's play it again. No, we got to go to bed. Okay, we went to bed. We woke up at 8 a.m., got us some breakfast, and then we played Too Many Bones till maybe 1, 2. We took a couple-hour break, and then we were back at Too Many Bones again. It was fantastic. And that night, Kate had come home from Disney. She was with doing one-to-one service with a family. And she comes home like, honey, you got to play this. We got to do this right now. We didn't. We played it the next day, and she loves Too Many Bones. So that one. And I think Dwellings come out this year? If not Dwellings,
I think so.
Space threw me for a loop this year. I know that came out last year. Was it last year or 2 years ago?
Space was 2 years ago, I think. But, you played it this year. It's new to you. Yeah. That's how I treat everything.
Exactly. That's how I view it as, too. And that's just space. I just love space.
So good. It's so incredibly good. I cannot wait for the expansion for that, by the way.
It's going to be good.
I mean, any time that I can roll more dice is fantastic. I loved Shy Pluto because it's like, what can make Space Base better? I'm trying to rack my brain.
More,
and then let's throw dice. 8 million dice that you get to roll in a turn, and this will make people happy. I have to agree on Too Many Bones, though, because I waited on that game for so long. It was...
So that price point.
Yep.
too much.
Am I going to get
Then
it
I
to the
opened it up.
table?
Yeah.
Is it going to hit? Will I have a group? Which you don't need a group. You can just play it
Nope.
solo, and it's fantastic.
Yes, you can.
And I was like, how did I not pick this up sooner? I waited for years, and I finally got to the chip theory booth at Origins. I'm like, this is an insta buy. And I went on the pledge manager like you did for the expansion, and like I'm pretty sure I'm up to like $360 on that. It's
It's easy
I
to
need
do.
I need more
What's
content.
another $700? You might as well get the whole thing
You're
at
right.
that point. Yeah.
You're right.
Got to get the trove chest.
Twist my arm. Oh, yeah, that's actually included. That is something I picked up. Just dedicate a Calyx shelf right to it. It's
Yeah.
perfect.
And what a great move by Chip Theory, too. Let me make a box that doesn't fit anywhere, and then make something that will take up a whole space.
Yep.
And that's your too many bone space. That's
Yep,
excellent
exactly.
marketing.
Exactly. I give them a lot of credit for that. So you put out a video recently from PAX that you conducted an interview while styling hair, it was just such a cool concept to me. Like, again,
you.
marrying your two passions together is so amazing. Do you have any plans on making that a regular feature?
I hope so. I do have some content creators local to me. I really want to do that. It was a fun time. And how that happened, I reached out to Carly from Gnarly Carly Gaming and I said, hey, Carly, I have a weird question. She's like, ooh, I like weird questions. I said, do you think I could cut your hair? Let's record it and we'll talk about PAX. We talk about games. She's like, psh, yeah. So we got Ryan, the Meeple Among People, involved as well. And that video was born. I cut Carly's hair first, although after I finished blow drying her hair, I thought I hit record on the dry cut, but I hit stop. And I did the dry cut, and then I hit record again. So that whole piece is just missing, and I was like, oh no. But it worked out because I had an after of her photo, which I put in there. And then Ryan was just pretty much the whole raw thing, and I was able to fast forward some pieces and all that stuff. I really put my cell phone to the test that weekend. I downloaded a video editing software from my phone, and I made that whole video on my phone, uploaded it to YouTube on my phone. What a wild time that we're in right now.
Wow, no kidding.
So I'm hoping to do that with the content creators around me, just to create some fun times, because, again, that's where I feel most comfortable, is behind a chair. Not that I'm not comfortable right now, but being behind the chair, there's just something about having, I don't know, I'm in your space, like I'm really in someone's space. It's a little disabling for the person in the space because not a lot of people get in or creeping into that little to your personal space. So I enjoy doing that. And really, if you're in my chair for 45 minutes to an hour and it's silence, it can get pretty uncomfortable. So we got to talk about something.
Yeah, and I think there's a little bit of trust that goes on in that space too. When you trust somebody, you start engaging them in conversation. You start kind of having those little moments that you wouldn't necessarily have with a stranger. But when they're kind of in your space, like you said, I think that kind of enables them and gets that, building that trust a little bit more.
Yeah. So, and if I were to do other people, I'd have to have someone sponsor me. Or if I were to cut other people's hair on video like that, I would need a sponsor to be able to fly or drive to Ohio or St. Louis or California or something like that. Because, again, it would be really cool to cut your hair and talk board games and interview you like that. But you'd have to be local. Or the convention space would be probably the most appropriate time for me to get that done. But I don't think I can get into the convention hall with my scissors, unless you get a booth, because then I can get a booth going.
There you go.
Start, cutting some hair at the show, sell some merch, stuff like that.
Have a shirt that says, I had my hair cut by Shear Boardom.
Yes.
Just have that and record it. Now you got content. Now you got sales going on. It's great. You can have everybody stop by, get a little spruce up. I think it works. I think you're onto something.
Thank you. I think, again, we're onto something. There's something here, and I'm liking it.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's very good. So besides styling hair and besides board gaming, what are your other interests?
Golf.
Lots of golf?
To play golf, yeah. I love golf, avid golfer. If I'm not playing a board game, I'm probably playing golf. Love golf. And it's golf. No,
Just golf.
So I have golf. I have a motorcycle. I love being on my motorcycle. And I like being outdoors. So we have a lot of mountains. When I was in Pennsylvania, it kind of hurt to look out in the distance and not see any hills or mountains. It was just flat. That didn't sit well with me just because where I'm from. You look out in the distance and there's a mountain anywhere you kind of see, or some type of hill or something. So I like to go hiking, do a lot of golf, mostly golf.
All the golf. Just golf.
All the golf.
No feelings, only
I'll travel.
golf.
No feelings, golf. What do you want to do after work? Golf. Where are you going today? Golf.
What kind of motorcycle do you ride?
It looks like a Harley. It's a Yamaha V-Star 1300. Coming up from a 650, so I started with that and I had that for a couple of years. And then when I started dating Kate, it was a little too small of a bike. So I upgraded so that way we can have a better experience when we're driving around.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So mostly a touring kind of bike?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad's been, I think he's up to 4 now that he's got. And, you know, he gets them out, not as much as he'd like to, but, you know, every once in a while he makes it a point to get something out and make sure that he rides during the summer. And obviously, where I'm from, Buffalo, New York, originally, it's not exactly the greatest place to ride your motorcycle year-round. And I'm assuming around Massachusetts, probably the same.
Correct. Although we've had a really weird December. It's been exceptionally warm, and I've seen bikes out and about. But I mean, once sand hits the road or salt, I'm not taking my bike out. It's too many dangers.
Exactly.
Too many hazards.
Well, is there anything else that you'd like to discuss?
More golf.
More golf.
I love to play golf.
Have you ever been to that? I think it's Top Flight, where they kind of like gamify golf a little bit at the driving range, and they have you hit targets.
Top Golf. I haven't. I think there's one coming to Gillette Stadium, or there's one in Gillette Stadium. I know there's a couple simulators at Foxwoods, which is in Connecticut, but I haven't been to one of those yet, so I can't let my swing get too rusty.
They just built one in Cleveland, and it looks like, I don't golf at all. Like, I mini golf, that's about it. It looks fun. Like, it looks super interesting. Like, you don't have to be into golf, and it just looks like it's a cool time.
Give it a shot, no pun intended.
I see what you did there. Very good.
Yes.
Very good. How can people keep up with you on social media?
Instagram, at Shear Boardom, SHEAR, Boredom like board game. Same thing on Twitter and on TikTok. And then Shear Boredom Table Talk on YouTube. Am I anywhere else? I think that's it. Well,
Roberto, thank you so much for being here. This was an awesome chat, and hopefully we see you at some conventions next year. I would love to sit and chat and play some more games with you. This has been super awesome.
Heck yeah, Arwen. Thank you for having me on. I'd love to do that with you.
Well, I think that's going to do it for us today. If you want to know more about Cardboard Time, you can visit our website at cardboardtime.com. Our Instagram and Twitter is at cardboard_time. You can always take a look at our Board Game Geek podcast page. And again, if you have any questions, suggestions, or ideas for discussion topics, please email cardboardtime@gmail.com or feel free to get a hold of us on our various social media platforms. As always, thanks again for listening, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks for another episode of Cardboard Time. Happy gaming.